Cause you're listening to Jams and Tea, you won't see the show on your TV, so we talk about things musically. Cause you're listening to Jams and Tea, you're listening to Jams and Tea.
Welcome everybody to a brand new episode of the Jams and Tea podcast, where we spin the jams and spill the tea. And today we are covering musical acts that we have actually heard of in a 2021 first. Oh my goodness! For the first time.
Never heard of Kid Cudi before.
No, not aware of him. We are going to be covering the new album.
Did we cover that out? We reviewed that album.
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah,
we did.
I have absolutely no
what did
recollection.
We review?
Kid Cudi.
Exactly.
We reviewed the new Playboy Cudi record.
Playboy Cudi.
I remember the Playboy Cardi record more than I remember the Kid Cudi record, and that is to my detriment.
This is a perfect indication of what we are going to be like without Tyler today. Tyler sadly cannot join us, so today it is just the four of us. But today we have no shortage of things to talk about because we are going to be speaking on the release of new album from rock legends, Weezer. We will be reviewing OK Human, their first release of 2021, certainly not their last.
Known internet douchebags, Weezer.
Let's call them air quotes rock band Weezer.
A rock band.
Yeah.
And we are going to be reviewing the new album from podcast darling Steven Wilson. We are going to be reviewing his new album, The Future Bites.
If Weezer are the internet douchebags, and Steven Wilson on his new record is a douchebag about the internet.
Perfectly fucking said.
So are Weezer for that matter.
Yes. The theme of the podcast this week in our main episode is going to be we do in fact live in a society.
With one exception.
And with one exception, notable exception, we are going to be talking about two other records in a capacity. We are going to be speaking on today is Saoirse's Record Club episode. We are going to be talking about the solo effort from Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance. We are going to be talking about Hesitant Alien, and perhaps maybe even the most exciting thing happening today. Saoirse, why don't you tell us about some news, some things we might be speaking on?
It's nothing much. It's nothing big. I just made a record. It's fine.
It's a big deal for some people in the podcast today. Saoirse's album, her new album, debut full-length record, Panic Attacks in Public, is available to stream on all platforms right now and on Bandcamp. It's gonna be in the description of this video. Eventually, me in the future, you fucking asshole. It will be there eventually, but
I mean, goodness knows I plugged it enough on my Twitter.
Go check it out. I mean, like seriously, fucking go check it out. And that's not where it ends, baby, because yours truly has released Volume 4. My new book is out today. Go buy it, go read it for free on Fiction Press, go follow me on Twitter, go buy it, go read it, I don't care, just consume,
I love They Live.
Yes, consume.
I love
They Live. I love yes, it all comes back together. So now we're going to be talking about what we've been listening to this week.
You go first.
Okay, admittedly, it has not been a lot because I have been writing a shitload this week and I haven't had a lot of work. I got the week off, but I did get to, I had a long drive to Indiana the other night and I decided like, all right, time to put on some night driving albums. So I listened to the self-titled Slow Dive for the 94th time. But I also listened to two Radiohead albums. I listened to A Moon-Shaped Pool and I listened to Kid A. And I'm gonna be an internet cool kid and say that I do in fact prefer slightly A Moon-Shaped Pool to Kid A, even though I think both are outstanding, obviously. Not to say Kid A is any kind of slouch or anything. Maybe the best fucking like one of the most influential albums of all time, a basically perfect album. But I forget how great those albums are each time, and I just revisit them And
Kid
I'm like,
A
oh,
record
fuck.
so good it melted the brain of a Pitchfork reviewer.
Yes, it killed him, and you can read his obituary in real time. It's fascinating, truly. I guess the only other real notable thing this week, I do have to speak to this just because it's important, even though it happened. Feels like a lifetime ago, just because of the way fucking time passes. But yet again, 2021 claims another victim before its time. We lost an absolute fucking legend, pioneer, musician, Sophie, who, you've heard her production work across the entire last decade with artists like Charlie XCX. Her album, Oil of Every Pearl's Uninsides, was a critical darling when it was released. A fantastic record that I did give a re-listen to this week. Getting through the opening track on that album's hard. I can't really talk about that, not gonna lie, but a bunch of other songs on that record, just absolutely stunning. Pony Boy is one of the most fucking hard songs anyone has ever made. It's just this fucking industrial pop rager, and it's also just like the sexiest fucking bottom ass song. It's a bottom anthem, truly.
Not enough of those, I think.
Not enough. Charlie XCX and Charlie XCX and Sophie do be making bottom anthems.
Absolutely.
But
yeah, what I love about that record and Sophie in general is you hear Sophie talk about what she does. This was passed around a lot when she passed, unfortunately. And it's like, I just want to make like the most beautiful sound possible with synthesizers. And then I also listened to her album this week. And aside from the first track, that the record is like out to beat you senseless. And I just find that dichotomy very funny.
The first one is there to actually make you weep like a baby. And then the rest of it is just to fucking go. And like there's lots of really awesome themes on that record about like just identity and acceptance and sexuality, and it's just an amazing record. It sounds so ahead of its time. It's the sound of the fucking future. Like again, Tyler is like the biggest fan of her work here, and I wanted to speak to that just because he's not here this week. But yeah, if you haven't heard her work or just haven't heard her record, please do. I can't recommend it enough. It's like an unfathomable tragedy that she was lost the way that she was. But yeah, I listened to that, and I also dug further deep into band that I mentioned last week by the name of Oh Brother, the interesting band that started off as a sort of emo thing with their like debut EP, and then gradually just grew into a alt-rock, post-rock, sludge metal band that just do the whatever the fuck they want. I listened to their entire catalog, really. I listened to their newest album, which came out last year, completely under the radar, which is called You and I, which is fucking amazing. Maybe I'd say probably my third favorite album of theirs, behind their debut Garden Window, which if you just want like a good fundamental sludge metal album that just fucking beats you into submission with the drumming and riffs, listen to Garden Window. That shit just absolutely relentless, fucking amazing, incredible. You and I is a bit more idiosyncratic. It's a bit more like, I would honestly compare their genre approach to that of Deftones, in that they blend so many different styles of music together that they're really just their own thing at this point. And it's this very gentle, occasionally record with some really interesting production choices, but it also occasionally will just absolutely come at you with the earlier sludge metal vibe. And it combines some of the stuff that they did on their 2016 record, Endless Light. Super good shit. That band does not get their due, so please check them out if it sounds at all interesting. There is an album of theirs for everybody, I think. They don't have a bad release either. All of their records are good. So yeah, that's what I've been listening to this week.
All right. Well, moving swiftly along to myself. I listened to Rage Against the Machine's debut album, Rage Against the Machine, as it's titled.
Inventive title.
Yeah, it's great. It's like the definitive rap metal album. It's like, what the fuck do I say about it?
It's just like the best piece of protest music of like the fucking century.
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you want me to say that hasn't been said a million times? I mean, Zach De La Roca's flow, his delivery is just so fun and intense. Tom Morello is like one of the best guitar players of the 90s.
Funky as fuck.
Funky, and also with like the record scratch noises which he makes with his guitar are just insane.
Fucking absolute mad lad.
Like the man is like, if you he's like doing like shoegaze except in metal, and it's crazy.
Yep.
That's a bit hyperbolic, but nonetheless. Next, Square Pushers Feed Me Weird Things. Square Pushers debut record. I think it's just as good as Hard Normal Daddy, which is my favorite Square Pusher album, although I guess now tied for my favorite, because this is equivalently good. It's got amazing track after amazing track. Like the opener called Square Pusher Theme is great. There's a song deeper into the track list called UFOs over, I think, Levinston or something, and that track's just phenomenal. But it's just full of great songs. It's really memorable. I recommend it. Something that I also recommend, but that is not as good or potentially even good, is an album called Bodacious by Mojo Nixon and Skid Roper. This is like a comedy.
Did you make that up?
No, I did not.
Where do you find this shit?
This is a comedy rockabilly album.
Oh.
That the opening song is called Elvis is Everywhere, and if you don't listen to the album, at least listen to that song because it is fucking hilarious.
Elvis?
And the album cover will speak for itself.
Oh.
But that song's really funny. The rest of it's kind of inconsistent. It's got some really great moments, some really atrocious moments, but I think it's worth a listen. It's may not be everyone's thing or anyone's thing.
It's not unlike the two albums we're reviewing in this episode.
Yeah,
some great moments, some atrocious moments.
Yeah.
I just listened to the first 20 seconds of Elvis is Everywhere and will confirm that this is
it's special.
Yep, it sure is. I want to listen to the whole song just because of the
yeah. I mean, do that.
It's been
same energy.
Final thing I'll highlight is James Ferraro's EP, 4 Pieces for Mirai, which is the first project in a series of this kind of end of the world 4-part classical music concept album thing. James Ferraro is known for being like one of the godfathers of vaporwave, and here he's kind of taking on classical music by way of MIDI synthesizer, and it's really something to behold. I have not listened to the 3 albums of the 4 which are out in the series, called Requiem for Recycled Earth, Neurogeist, and Terminus, which came out just this month. So I will be doing that shortly, but I think at least that project I can say is very good, worth your time, and that's what I've been listening to.
All right.
Well, inspired by both the announcement of the release of a new project of theirs and a conversation we were having in one of our music chats, I gave a re-listen to the debut Death from Above 1979, or Death from Above without 1979, whatever fuckery it's going on. I don't care. You're a Woman, I'm a Machine by Death from Above 1979. An album I have not heard in probably, I think since freshman year of high school, and I didn't really vibe with it then. And you know, this isn't the only way that freshman me was an idiot, but it's certainly one of the ways because oh my god, it rocks my balls.
Yeah.
I've never heard them up until we talked about this yesterday, and you were talking about the album, so I listened to like half of it and was just like, this fucking shreds.
Yeah, and it's like the most consistent album ever. It's just like every song is either a 9 or a 10, just absolute fucking bangers. Like immaculately produced, amazing sounding album. And like it's amazing to me that it was released in 2004 because it's still
really holy
it
shit.
still sounds like the future of rock music.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. Amazingly influential record in the alternative scene, and for great reason. A first listen of mine, as I listened to Hayley Williams' debut solo album, which I didn't listen to last year because I don't know. I can't explain anything that happened last year.
Me either, man. I don't have a reason.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's quite good. It is also quite bloated, and
Yeah, I was gonna say it looked really long.
quite unfocused. And the album that she announced was coming out today is about 15 minutes shorter, so that already looks to be an improvement.
I love you, Hayley.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of great stuff on that first album. Anyway, very much enjoyed it. What else? What the fuck else did I listen to? Oh, I listened to the new Foo Fighters. That's what we're covering next week.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's an album.
Mm-hmm. It is.
What else? Oh yeah, I listened to the debut Jawbreaker album titled Unfun.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Has a cat on the cover.
Yeah.
Very, very good album. Again, perhaps a bit bloated for what it is. That's an album that should be, 40 minutes max, and is instead like 50. And, it does kind of hurt it. But overall, very good debut record for what ended up being, again, one of the most influential bands of all time. Yeah, I guess the last thing of note that I listened to just today actually is the album of this little known artist who really, frankly, should be getting a lot more attention, I think, called Saoirse and the Agenda. Pretty small artist, but I think they deserve to really grow and get a lot of attention.
Music that should reach a wider audience.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, if
after
only
the release,
we could aid in doing that.
Yeah, we really should do something about that next week. Yeah, I will save my detailed thoughts for then. But
yes,
I enjoyed that quite
well.
a bit.
Yeah. I just want to say about today being the release day, it has surpassed my highest expectations of how I thought it could go. As in, like, I had a roof set, and how well it's gone is like well above that, and it has really humbled me. Like, I have always said, and I still think that whether people like it or not is somewhat like a secondary concern. The point of making it was to make it, but the fact that for such a small release, it already seems to have found an albeit limited audience who really respond to it. It's just more than I could hope for, and it's really humbled me.
I couldn't have. I feel like that is the attitude, the ideal attitude of an amateur artist to have, because like with my writing too, I feel like the the process is the important thing, the desire to do it, and not the desire for it to, like, success is great and all, and I'm sure that we would both love it, don't get me wrong, but it comes from a place of honesty, I think, first and foremost, and I think your record really, really shows that.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
mean,
so
I think
much.
that's the sign of anybody who actually gives a shit about what they do is to think about just getting the damn thing made first and foremost, and then thinking about an audience perhaps a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, what have you been listening to, Miss
Anywho,
and the agenda?
I'm going to start by just quickly doing like short reviews for 2 new albums that came out this week that we're not talking about. The first one being Sound Ancestors by Madlib, which it's hard to review instrumental hip hop records, but I enjoyed what Mr. Lib was doing a lot on this record. The way he brought in vocal samples as well to complement what he was doing, I thought really aided the record.
quite good at that, he is.
Yeah.
Bringing on a white guy to edit his record to own the libs.
Hey,
Because you lib.
you'd have to be mad to do that. Anyway, yeah. Also, UK pop punk alternative rock upstarts. You Me at 6 released an album this week called in.
Are they like 40?
Yeah, they're 33, I think, something like that. Yeah, and it's called, in all caps without a space, Stuck a Punch, which is one of the most obnoxious album titles I've ever heard. What I always thought of the band is that they started with a very of the zeitgeist mid-2000s pop punk record, but after that they almost immediately started moving into more alternative rock spaces that I would even consider at least one of their albums good. So it's not an all-time low situation where I feel like they've just kept making music for teenagers and never evolved, and it feels tired now, because this record doesn't sound like that. What it sounds like is that you ran out of like initiative about 3 albums ago and you're just still trying, because it's not like the ideas on this record have no potential. It just sounds like you stopped trying to execute them with any panache at all, which might be more disappointing. I'm not sure.
Who can even say at this point, really?
Yeah. I also listened to a much better album, Casadega by Bright Eyes, this week.
Woo!
I listened to it the day after we recorded our last episode, and whoo boy, whoo daddy, is that a good record? Whoo! Yeah.
Oh goodness.
It is good enough for me to
There
consider
he
buying on
is.
vinyl, but I might not do that for a while. I feel like it's sort of like it's front loaded with my favorite songs on it, but it's all very good. In the morning of the passing of Sophie, I listened to one of the albums she co-produced, that being I'm All Ears by Let's See Grandma, which has been
Wonderful.
one of my favorite records for like since the week it came out. It's a phenomenal electronic pop record, incredibly ambitious for a pop record as well. The song Donnie Darko is just an absolute knockout. I love that too.
Can't believe I like the album with the closer named Donnie Darko.
Crazy, ridiculous. All right, so I'm going to try to just fit in 3 more records I want to talk about before I go. The first one being Repeater by Fugazi. Wonderful post-hardcore album. Do I like it more than 13 songs? Maybe I do. It's just wonderful. I've also been continuing my completely accidental journey through the works of PJ Harvey with To Bring You My Love.
That's like the happiest accident ever.
Yeah.
Isn't it fucking just? I loved it. It's a real, I feel like every PJ Harvey record I've listened to so far is a huge like artistic step forward from the last one, which is already great. If you know,
I like it when she gets the vocals all low and goes, to bring you my love.
It's incredible.
And I'm just like, yes, step on me.
Yesterday
Love
morning.
Nick Cave. Wait.
I love Nick Cave. I wish PJ Harvey did.
Yeah,
Oh. I mean, to be fair, them not loving each other produced some great records.
it really did. It was for the betterment of all.
The Boatman's Call, the breakup album.
Yeah. In fact, both of the records we've referenced tie into the album I released this week because I wrote the first song on my record, Bad Seeds, listening to the Boatman's Call, which is why it references that. And I listened to Bring You My Love after I had an interview with Tyler about my record yesterday morning. Which was a really lovely thing. And then I went for a walk in the park and listened to Bring You My Love, and the combination of those two experiences, it's just a beautiful feeling. And it really probably aided my emotional resonance to the record.
You're not a narcissist who listens to your own record while walking.
Donald Glover, you listen to your own music?
If you don't listen to your own music, how do you know it's good?
Yeah, precisely.
I know. To be fair, I've listened to the finished post the point where I said I'm done version of the record about 4 times. So I'm not taking blame away from myself.
I know we're going. It's not like we're talking about it now or anything. But can I just say that there will not be a song title in 2021 I like more than David Fincher Was Born Innocent? Like nothing has a chance of dethroning that. Absolutely nothing.
I'm so glad I can do that for you.
I shall give this a shot.
Oh shit, August!
Oh,
be
no,
like,
it's a challenge.
I'll see that. Bet.
I'll see you in court, bitch.
The last record I want to talk about is by a band called US Girls, Us Girls, whatever, and it's called In a Poem Unlimited, which is a lovely, sort of very fuzzy pop record that I really, really fucking vibe with. Like every track that isn't an interlude or that's over 20 seconds long, it just goes and pleases my eardrums and sets off my dopamine. I don't know if anyone else here has listened to it, but I enjoyed it muchly. And I listened to it because a lot of people on Twitter said it was good, and I thought the album cover looked beautiful. And then I listened to it, and the record sounded as good as the cover looked. So, and that's what I've been listening to this week.
All right, then we the Jams
Tyler, what have you been
podcast.
listening to?
Probably
that's great. Really, yeah.
Probably some Oteca.
Dicka.
Could never.
All right, what flavor of pain are we subjecting ourselves to first?
I think the Weezer one is up first on the.
Okay, all right. Yep. Okay, we are going to be talking first about Weezer's new record, the first of many 2021 releases from Weezer, apparently.
When you said Weezer just there, the way you said it reminded me of in the Buddy Holly music video where the guy introduces him and says, "And now Weezer."
No, yeah, Weezer.
Yeah.
Weezer.
But I mean, Weezer need no introduction, really. I mean, they've made records like Blue and Pinkerton that have cemented them as basically power pop gods. They have also sort of had a bit of a resurgence in the last decade with some records more than others. Albums like Everything Will Be All Right in the End and the White Album have sort of made their output something that people are at least curious about, because they are just so inconsistent that occasionally they'll throw the dart and it might not be a miss.
That's why I have heard all 14 of these things, is because I'm just so damn curious.
So for
every
the
time.
people who don't know, we should introduce the concept that Weezer have also become notorious for their 2000s output, where they did not release a single record above a 4 out of 10.
That's generous, even, I'd say, but yes, you're correct.
And then
with
in the lead up to
like
this
Gratitude, considered by many just one of the worst albums. Not
shite.
Yeah.
And then in the lead up to this, we had in the lead up to this, we had a series of very consecutive releases that were
Pacific
all
Daydream,
really
Teal, and
underwhelming.
Black.
And Black, yeah, like right next to each other. When they had built up some kind of goodwill, 3 albums on the trot that basically, oh, you believed in us? Fuck you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
It's insulting, is what it is.
Yeah.
And they also, at least before, COVID-19 and all that shit, Van Weezer was going to be their next released album, which is still going to happen. But first, they came out with this album, which they announced not too long ago, which is by the name of OK Human. It is a 30-minute long record. Weezer not known for releasing long records in the first place, so not surprising. But the notable thing about OK Human is that it was of course, sort of born from the entire last year of isolation and blah, and also conceptually, musically anyway, it is an album that is solely like orchestral. It's basically like it basically sounds like a Ben Folds album is how I would say it. And it's slightly conceptual in terms of like an overarching narrative, though I have some points to make about that, I suppose. But it is a hard right turn for Weezer, even like by their most eclectic of standards, I'd say. So that sets the stage, and now here we are. So is anybody really dying to go first?
Well, I'll just go ahead.
You are the most storied Weezer person on the podcast, I would say.
Yeah, probably. Maybe. I don't know.
That's the saddest I've ever heard you sound on this podcast.
Who fucking cares? That's the thing about Weezer album. It's a new Weezer album. They've released a new one. It's different. They are usually different from one another. It's not like they have a problem of being, generic for Weezer and running together. You can usually identify what makes one different from the other. And you definitely can hear. It's mainly a strings, piano, and drums album,
Yep.
which is interesting for them. It's a new approach. It's just a shame that all of the songs on here are in fact Weezer songs. Rivers Cuomo is an idiot.
Yep.
That's really all there is to it. Mans cannot write a song without sounding so just so stupid.
Play my piano.
No one fucking cares about your piano. You weird.
You
weird, annoying
governor
little
of New
man.
York ass.
Yeah, I really think Rivers Cuomo is getting a bit too much credit for how he handled the pandemic.
Not prioritizing essential workers. What a bastard.
Yeah. It sounds okay. It sounds pretty good, I would say, for what it's going for. It's just so completely unmemorable. Even the parts of it that I remember for being okay, the lyrics are fucking stupid. Like what the chorus to Alu Gobi is great. It's like the best moment on the album. What is he talking about? Like,
what in the fuck is an Alu Gobi?
I think
is this like a pun or something? Like I was wondering if you all knew this, and I was just like, "What are you talking about?"
Either a desert or a curry or both, but
I'm gonna assume it's just something in California.
Sure.
Hang on, like a desert or a dessert?
Like a desert, like the Sahara.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Or a curry, but I'm not sure.
It does sound like it could be a dessert.
Neither would surprise me.
You see what's happening, folks.
This is really incisive music criticism that we're doing here.
Rivers isn't exactly giving us a lot to work with in our defense.
Like, it's a bunch of like pop songs with string arrange. I have fucking nothing. There's nothing here. I have nothing. It doesn't sound like anything. It's boring, and it's mercifully short. That's the kindest thing I will say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I won't like pretend that I have thoughts that are too divorced away from this. Like, I'll actually echo a sentiment that Tyler said when he was listening to it, which was broadly the same journey I've had with it, which is this album really gets mileage out of its novelty of like being what it is on like first listen, because it's brisk, it's very different from what they've done, and as Morgan said, it does sound very good. Like the arrangements are well put together, and like on a purely musical level, it's like good. And at first I was just like, wow, I'm enjoying this a surprising amount. And, you know, since it's 30 minutes, it like, you know, you burn through it quickly, and it's not like it overstays its welcome. And in any respect, it doesn't feel bloated. Like all of the songs are of adequate length. And then the problem is when you sit down and listen to it to take notes, you discover the album has no staying power, like at all. I think that
No substance.
No, and it doesn't help that like I wasn't kidding about today's theme of the whole "we live in a society" thing, because like the most poignant moments on the record are when Rivers is talking about like what isolation has done to him and his creative process. It's just a shame that that is in this album, but it is also in the album often as much as "don't look at the phone screens, man. You can't. You're gonna become part of the society, man." And I'm just like, Rivers, you, even in your best moments, you are a songwriter who gets by on the fact that you are unapologetically awkward and kind of stupid. I will say I find it very impressive that Rivers' vocal performances are still this good this far into his career. He is a phenomenal vocalist, honestly. I think he's, like, if you think his voice is annoying, then you're not going to enjoy any Weezer record ever, but I challenge you to listen to something like Buddy Holly and not have a good time. But, and he sounds good here. He sounds like he's trying. It's just that the writing is so fucking flimsy. This idea of making this arranged orchestral album should be so much more than what it is, and especially when, like, even in his singing voice, he channels a lot of people like Conor Oberst. He channels a lot of people like Ben Folds, and it's like there is none, repeat, none, not a one reason you should listen to this before any record that Ben Folds or Conor Oberst ever made. It's there is not a single solitary thing I can think of that this does better or even really as well as them. I would say it is a good release because it's like swallowing a pill. Like it's just like, oh yeah, it's like it goes down, didn't taste like anything. I got to drink some juice. It's just so like, it's just so slightly above mediocre, and I wanted it to have more staying power than it did. I wanted it to listen to it again and like it, and then all of the songs, and it's just got a lot of moments on it that I would say are questionable, like the aforementioned "Play on My Piano," which I like that song, except for that part, and that happens all over the album, where it's just got like one moment where you're like,
let us not forget his weird cancel culture shit on the record.
I can't believe that we've gotten to a point in music, the music critical like world, where someone like Rivers Cuomo, who it's just like, dude, you wrote Pinkerton. Shut up. Stop. You have no right. Get out. And
y'all remember Where's My Sex?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
As much as I enjoy Pinkerton a fair bit, I think Rivers Cuomo will probably be the first to admit that some of that record hasn't aged well.
I should hope so.
Addresses.
I mean, I think he hates that record full on.
And like, don't get me wrong, that's kind of like, from what I can understand, because I haven't heard Pinkerton in its entirety, but like the charm of Pinkerton is really that it is so unapologetically like raw in a way. And like, I would have killed for an intersection of the musical ideas here mixed with like at least a modicum of the authenticity that's on that album, which it rears its head occasionally here. And the album, I would say, is never unpleasant. And I actually think the opener is like one of my favorite Weezer songs. I think it's pretty terrific, even though some of the lyrical moments are just kind of
But it's just Bittersweet Symphony.
Yes, I was going to say, and then I think about it a little bit and I'm like, it's Bittersweet Symphony, except it doesn't sound as good as the Verve's production, and it's a better written song. So I can't really even fully love the parts of this that I love because they're just lesser versions of other things. Rivers, why? Why are you doing this to me?
Welcome to hell.
Hate it here.
Well, I know. I haven't talked to August once about this record. I know he won't like it very much. So, and I quite like it. So I'm going to say that August should go next, and then I'll round it out.
I'm glad we have someone to play kind of devil's advocate for both sides here, because Morgan and I are just like,
yeah,
I'm done.
I'm tired.
I'm Lewin Davis at the end of the film Inside Lewin Davis. I thought I just needed a good night's sleep. But...
This segment could just be our dear friend Thomas the other day just posted one of those Twitter 4x4s, and it's just Lewin Davis saying "I'm tired" every single time. That's this segment of the podcast.
Yeah.
Just tired. I thought I just needed a good night's sleep, but it's more than that.
Okay, Human. Kicks off with all my favorite songs. It's a cute little tune about not having much of a sense of direction in life as kind of a result of this pandemic stuff.
All my favorite people make me mad is a lyric I like a little too much, I will admit.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, God, I feel it. I feel it so strongly.
Yeah, no, that's like the best point of writing on the album, but it also does feel a little high and mighty coming from a man who has fronted the band Weezer and been very commercially successful.
Like, if you like sad songs so much, make some. I want to hear them. Like, not
He's too busy being happy, rich, and having a hot Asian wife.
Pap. Like, no, really, when he wrote Beverly Hills, he said Rivers, that sucks, and he was like, but I meant it, and then he did it.
Then we've got fucking Alu Gobi, which just starts up the California counter for this record. Where we get a just complete worship of fucking California. Man might as well come on this track and say California is my city, Logan Paul style.
But the California kids will show you the sunshine, which is a reference to a different Weezer album, so I don't know why I made it. But
I mean, at least it's on topic.
I was gonna say, who can blame you when you got songs like fucking Screams, man? Like,
I can't fucking hum a note of that song.
It's good.
So I mean, then we've got the Audible ad on this album. It's kind of bouncy. It walks the fine line between tolerable and embarrassing.
To Weezer, that's a compliment. I mean, really.
No, that is, and it's one of the best songs on the record. I'm not even gonna deny that. Then we've got fucking Numbers, which is a wonderful, wonderful I am 14 and this is deep post. It got right up to the top page.
Yo, you ever think about how everything is numbers, man? You ever think about that?
Yeah.
Within cells interlinked, bro.
This is an album written from the perspective of K from Blade Runner 2049.
This is an album written from the perspective of Dr. K from Power Rangers RPM. And I don't even know what the fuck that means.
It means that we're going to have at least one listener be like, hey, I got that.
Yeah.
Will we? I'm not sure that we will.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I won't front. These 4 songs are like the best things on this record, and I've just incessantly made fun of them. Yeah, I mean, the best thing, as Morgan put it, is that this album doesn't stick around long enough to annoy you, and I mean, I'll give it that.
If only the same could be said for other records.
Yeah, a lot of the escapist themes I feel are just like, they're just far too familiar for me in this sea of fucking modern albums. Like I am so sick at this point of the Quarantine album. I could not care at this point. Please leave me alone. Unless you are working a minimum wage job, you have no right to make a Quarantine album. That is like, get out of here.
So what
I
you're
guess I
saying
couldn't
is,
have said it better myself.
So what you're saying is we need Spanish love songs as Quarantine album.
Yeah, we got it. It's called Brave Face.
No, that came out before the Quarantine.
I
but
know,
it still got sold
but
really well.
It's the same energy as what
Yeah.
would be, though. It's the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, and of course we've already mentioned the weird anti-technology fucking stuff that's just awful. Cancel
For
culture
iPhone
stuff.
shit.
Shut up, Rivers. Next, what? I've forgotten half of this. Not half, like 90% of the songs on here. Really, most of my notes are just say "Shut up, Rivers" because that's the song. Shut up,
today.
Rivers. That being said, Weezer, great band to see live. I've seen them live once. They're real, and I want to speak to this because I think it's a good kind of. I think it emphasizes the point that, like, why does this band have such a fan base? Because, like, you see them live, they're just wonderful. Like, they've got this big fucking light up W that they just cascade over them. It's a very exciting live performance, and you can't deny that Weezer as a group have a personality. It's just on this record, and most of their records for that matter, they are entirely obnoxious. It just happens this is also entirely forgettable, so it about evens out.
I couldn't have fucking said it better myself. I think you raise an interesting point when you talk about like just being sick of Quarantine albums and just like what this album's trying to do in regard to that is that like this album clearly wants to tackle this problem the way that Aesop Rock did last year. And the cool thing about Aesop Rock's album is that it is obviously a record that is born from anxiety and paranoia and stuff, but it's about him like going places and shit and like imagination and all this stuff. And it's like, it doesn't use it to be like complainy and blah, woe is me, screens, man. Like, no, it's just an excuse to deliver good music, which
and it's like it's been almost a year of this. Are we not collectively over it? I don't want to hear about it anymore. I want to hear about literally anything else. Literally, without exaggeration, anything else.
Like, you could write a concept album that's about the Holocaust, and I would find it less boring and depressing than this.
Well, August, I also news for you about my next album. No,
I was gonna say August needs to listen to Slayer's Rain and Blood. That'll give you that. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
And I have also listened to Race Under Pressure. So that in 1,000.
There you go. There you go. Anyway, speaking of the Holocaust,
Oh no!
What was going to come next, Jake?
Don't
I
worry
think I
about
realized halfway through that I didn't, and then I was just like, well.
Because the only logical thing that could come next after that is me praising this album.
I resign.
God
Good
damn
night,
you, Rivers
everybody. The
Cuomo.
show is canceled.
Right. Jake has officially been canceled while talking about Weezer.
Now Rivers Cuomo's gonna write a song about you being canceled.
Hey, as long as he gives me royalties.
Culture's out to get you. Cancel culture's out to get you. Anyway, I had before you can talk about this album, you do have to contextualize sort of who Rivers Cuomo is. And what I've been realizing, what I've been realizing more and more lately is that he really is the Owen Wilson of music.
I don't even know how that connects, but it sounds so true.
Think about Owen Wilson's early career, right? You know, co-wrote the first Wes Anderson film, I want to say.
Royal Tenenbaums.
Starred in the early good ones, although Wes Anderson never stopped making good ones.
Sure.
But the things about Owen Wilson after that is it is a lot of pap, really, with occasional highlights. And the thing is about the highlights in Wilson's career is that they're still never as good as the early good ones. And the same can be said of Rivers Cuomo.
So what you're telling me is that Cars is the equivalent to Make Believe.
Yes.
More Marley and Me is the equivalent to Make Believe.
Okay.
It's a solid bet.
We can do a lineup between that and like Pacific Daydream. There we go.
Right. Yeah.
And
Okay.
EU bait is Midnight in Paris.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. Remarkable. That whole movie just has Rivers energy.
Yeah.
It's because him and Woody Allen are the same person, minus the fondling. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Again,
that's
Pinkerton.
More just because I've learned not to be surprised by anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is about Rivers' process of making music is that the way in which he writes through almost like Louis Buñuel-esque free association is that it means that
please don't ever do that again.
But it's that it kind of means that his work is very much like throwing darts at a dartboard, in that it comes from him in a very clear way, but it is so untethered from anything relating to a personal experience that you could possibly do. And it means that even when he's making shit I love, like the White Album, boy, do I not believe I'm getting any insight to. I don't really care to know about Rivers, but I'm not getting any insight to an artist behind the voice here. You know.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so, OK Human comes along, and they're using, I think, the same orchestra that recorded Abbey Road, although I'm sure they changed a lot of the members since then.
I think you're right. I think.
And you can see the moments that I love most on this record are the moments in which the orchestra sounds like orchestral tracks on Beatles records, like Penny Lane or All You Need Is Love, neither of which are on Abbey Road, but you get my point.
Yes.
And so there'll be a moment that sounds like the trumpet line in Penny Lane, and I'm like, I feel like I'm listening to an amazing Beatles song that I love. It does never get as good as that song or even as the White Album, but I still enjoy it muchly. And I think the reason is, from the very first listen, I knew that it's not that, even though it's called OK Human, Rivers wasn't trying to make his OK Computer. That
would be the most insufferable thing imaginable.
Wouldn't it? He is trying to make something that's fundamentally frivolous and throwaway and fun. And although it has a narrative and an idea behind it, it is quite intentionally skimming along the surface of the ocean like a stone. It's there to be like Midnight in Paris in a way, substantial but fundamentally breezy, and never out to actually make you feel unhappy.
Consumable. It goes down easy.
Yeah, it's like not as good as, but like a martini in many ways, in which there is bitterness there, but it's meant to just sort of go down while you're doing other things. And I think Rivers set out to make that record. So whenever I listen to it, I'm like, this is what he does optimally these days. Quite good. And he didn't set his expectations out of the planet like he has on some of his biggest follies. He set his expectations that I'm going to make an album with these limitations, because it's like, again, not as good as, but it's like, so Takashi Miike has a movie pushed back because of scheduling delays, has 3 weeks free, and makes Visitor Q on a whim. Although Visitor Q is a masterpiece, and this is pretty good.
Same principle.
Yeah. And yeah, something like Grapes of Wrath is fucking dumb, but I know what it is sort of like to feel a social alienation and walk through an empty city listening to audiobooks, which I've done. And I love, and again, there is a gesture at a narrative in the song, in the way that at the beginning, the books he's referencing, sort of Mrs. Dalloway, Moby Dick, 1984, books about social alienation and isolation. And towards the end, he's talking about Peter Pan, Lord of the Rings. And the narrative on the album is on that level. And I don't think it ever wants you to expect it to be more. It's not saying we are on the level of Grapes of Wrath. It's just saying, if it's some Grapes of Wrath, cool. That's what it's saying.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good thing I find it annoying for entirely separate reasons.
Yes,
Sure.
basically.
Sure. But I suppose my point is that I didn't expect high art from Rivers. I don't think Rivers expected to make high art. It's just really pleasant, and it's nice to see Rivers set himself a concept and execute it pretty well. Like, I love the orchestration here, and although Rivers probably didn't do it, and it is the best thing about the record, I do love it. And yeah, it has its low points. Boy, does it. Namely the stretch through playing my piano to screens. I'm really glad you guys got any kind of meaning from screens, because I was listening to it like, is this about streaming movies? Is that what this is about? Like,
Rivers Cuomo is on film
on
Twitter
your fucking telephone.
complaining about
Get
piracy.
real.
Fucking morons. What a weight Einstein must have had.
Yeah, I got the full transcript of that David Lynch quote.
All right, let's do it again, but this time good.
Who gives a fucking shit how long a scene is? Fucking A.
Yeah.
My 3 favorite tracks are all my favorite songs. Probably Dead Roses and La Brea Tar Pits, least favorite, Screens, and 6.
Fucking favorites are all my favorite songs, Alu Gobi, and Audible ad. I don't fucking care what it's called. Least favorite is Screens, I guess 5.
August, you fucking... I think it's funny that, like, if Alu Gobi would have been on my list if it didn't have the chai tea latte line. I hear that and I'm just like, God, shut the fuck up, dude.
No, that's a perfectly valid reason not to put that on there.
Yeah.
Morgan.
I fully agree with what you just said, Jake. And that said, that is my favorite track on the album.
Speaks more to him than me.
Yeah. Yeah, 3 favorites: Alu Gobi, Grapes of Wrath. Least favorite, fucking Phone Bad. 4 out of 10. Leave me alone.
Bad.
Leave me alone, Rivers.
Just leave me alone. Sorry, I did Michael Jackson. It's fine.
Beverly Hills. My 3 favorites are
Don't
Grapes of
ever.
Wrath.
No.
Grapes of Wrath. All my favorite songs. I'm gonna say Bed with a Broken Wing because I feel like it. I'm gonna give this record a 7.5 out of 10.
Damn.
So that's on average a 5.6, which is the same as 3 albums I recommended: Sports Team, Deep Down Happy, Jump Rope Gazes by the Beths, and In Sickness and In Flames by the Front Bottoms.
Yeah, that's about right, honestly.
No, I mean, I'm fine with that.
All
Okay.
right, so now on to a better artist and a worse record.
Wow, we should just end the podcast right here. You said it. You just said it.
Thank you.
You've done it. You've broken me.
So I would
Broke
encourage
comedy down to its barest essentials.
So, in case, dear audience, you have not guessed, we, all five of us, in a show of true appreciation for a great artist that only comes along, the likes of which of Deftones, artists that all five of us can just fully get behind. And man, I can't think of a better example of one than Steven Wilson. After all, we did just do a 3.5 hour long analysis of two of his most beloved projects. Yeah. Please go watch that if you hadn't.
It's like Steve Wilson, Deftones, Phoebe Bridgers. Wait,
I was about to say, you said the syllable and I was like,
Wartecker. That's
Wartecker. But
I'm sure there's like two others.
We have arrived at Steven Wilson's new record, The Future Bites, which so I first became aware that this was even happening because a single was released very early on, because this album was supposed to come out last year but did not for obvious reasons.
I think it was like, I think Personal Shopper was like November of 2019.
Yes, and I listened to Personal Shopper and I saw the album cover and I saw the length of the song and how different it began to sound, and was like, at first I was like, I might be able to get behind this. Like, this could be like some Bowie shit, and Steven Wilson loves Bowie, so of course that is. And then you listen to the remaining 7 minutes of the song, and well, I mean, look, if OK Human was like screens bad, technology bad, Steven Wilson with The Future Bites has come along to say that just, well, actually, no, I take that back. He's come along to say nothing. The unfortunate reality of The Future Bites is that it is nowhere near the disaster that I thought it would be when I listened to Personal Shopper and Eminent Sleaze, and yet it is also not good enough to be considered a decent Steven Wilson project in its own right. And as a result, it becomes one of the most frustrating albums we have ever covered on this podcast for me. Because I mean, like, again, go watch our other video. We adore this guy. He has range like no other. He is one of the most prolific musicians of the 21st century. His work is inescapable. He's been doing stuff since he was 15 years old. So I have to beg the question, how does someone with this level of knowledge make a record that doesn't really sound good?
It's the only artist to get a 10 out of 10 from all five of us. The only one.
That's just the one record. He could do it again. It's possible. And I think I'll just go ahead just because, like, this is...
No, I mean, you were, I think.
This is such a, like... It's an album that fools you into a false sense of security, in that the first half of it, while nowhere near even like his mid-tier shit, convinced me when I first heard it, like, oh, maybe this can work. I don't love all of this, but I don't really dislike any of it either. And then we just hit Eminent Sleaze. And then it all comes tumbling down, where he just decides to make an album that does not sound bad, but sounds so catastrophically inconsistent that I am just left wondering what his intention with delving into this more electronic, almost art pop levels of weird. And he didn't do it very well. You have Eminent Sleaze, which is an album that I don't think the production is a song that I don't think the production is bad on, yet nonetheless is an ugly sounding song where the filthy bass line just actually makes me feel unclean. It's not like you're listening to it, you're like, oh, that's got a groove to it. It's just like, why is this sound so, like, it sounds bricked. It sounds just like loud and obnoxious and sharp. And I just hate the way it works. And the real undoing of even the best stuff on here musically is that lyrically this album is fucking insipid. Makes OK Human look like it's fucking Tolstoy. He just keeps rattling off these fucking facile observations that anybody who has graduated high school could probably tell you without 50 years of musical experience behind them. And like, August said something that sort of unlocks my opinion on this record overall when we talked about Deadwing, when he spoke to Steven Wilson's fascination with technology and how it's always never really manifested in a way that is like smart necessarily, but it is also grounded in theatricality and a sort of emotion of like it's speaking to a loneliness or a lack of belonging, or it's rooted in something that tells you about the characters, like the story of something like Fear of a Blank Planet. You understand that this kid is just lost inside this fucking world because he's lonely and sad and taking antidepressants like they're fucking Skittles. And The Future Bites, on the other hand, does, like, not that it needs a narrative, but it has no narrative. And it's just listening to Steven Wilson say society, society, society over and over again, very literally at one point, very, very literally, because like the second half of this is easily the worst thing Steven Wilson's name has ever been on. I will say the first half has moments. King Ghost, not a great song, has moments in it where I think the vocal harmonies of Steven just come off as being a little goofy, but it's a good sounding song and it is not unpleasant. I like the way it's just like, I just wish it was written from a different perspective. And then you have something like 12 Things I Forgot, which is miles ahead of everything else that he's produced with this. Like, it's a legitimately great song. It sounds like it got pulled right off of Hand Cannot Erase, but it's just like, it's him doing what he's always done, but with a slightly different coat of paint, and I can get into that. And then Eminent Sleaze, which the music video just gives me the vibe of this is basically him doing a song on Everything's Reanimator. This is him doing the music video of Big Climb. And he's trying to make all these observations. He's trying to do a fever dream, really, except with everything's approach in A Fever Dream. It is all rooted in like the pain and agony that all of these things are causing. And instead, takes the worst approach. And that approach is to ignore all of the systemic causes of people being depressed or spending too much time on their phone or like politics. And Steven instead directs his gaze at the listener instead of the powers that be. Nowhere worse than on Personal Shopper, which is just, I hate this song. It's disgusting. Like, it just starts off and you're like, fine, whatever. And then you realize that it's 10 minutes long and it's just a song about insulting you. It is just a song. It's just like, oh, you buy a bunch of shit. Oh, you're a mindless consumer, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, he releases a $10,000 version of his album. Steven, how do you not see the irony here and at least not even attempt to comment on it? It's just like, oh, you fucking stupid sheep, all of you buying a bunch of products. And I'm like, Steven,
I think you make a really astute point there. And it's like, I've seen the argument defending that and like, oh, it's done with irony. Yeah, I can punch you in the balls and say it's ironic. That doesn't make it. No.
Fight Club is done with like detachment and irony. This is like, if Fight Club was made by Brett Ratner, this is what this is like.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so blunt and stupid that it doesn't even orbit around saying something interesting. And I think that like
Adam McKay.
You put the nail on the head. And I just think that like when you detach the whole rooting it in emotion thing, it does come off as bad as it possibly could. And I just cannot for the life of me imagine, like, it also just comes off as incredibly fucking privileged. I know Steven Wilson is far from like a billionaire or anything, but the dude is well off. He has a wife, he has 2 kids, he has a dog, he seems to be happy. And you know what, Steven? That's really great for you. I'm quite envious of that fact. As somebody who works a minimum wage retail job, on the other hand, I specifically am fucking pissed and insulted that one of my favorite artists has the fucking balls after I have been a slavishly devoted fan of his to call me out for wanting to listen to his music and to buy things online while I am stuck in my house for a year wondering if the world is going to end. Sorry, Steven, but the $20 that I used to buy a Blu-ray last week are not going to save the fucking world. It's not my fault. We're not trying to save the rainforest. What are you talking about? You're smarter than this. And then the rest of the album is just a faint echoed sentiment of all of the things that are wrong with fucking Personal Shopper. You have shit like Follower, which I don't think is a terrible song musically, but fucking lyrically makes me want to die. And Count of Unease is just an absolute deflated whoopee cushion of an album ender. And it frustrates me so much. And he also released the B-sides EP to this, of which there are at least 2 songs that if you replaced on this album would be like, it would probably be the weakest thing he's ever made still. But I would still be able to call it good. I would call it decent. As is, I can only call this slightly above mediocre, mainly because of how it sounds. But like from an ideological standpoint, this is infuriating. I hate this. It's not on the level of something like Sear or Billy Corgan, but it hurts a whole lot more because, I mean, honestly, what did we expect from somebody like Billy? I expect better from Steven. He can do better. He has done better. He hasn't fallen off. So I just hate that, like, everybody is allowed a miss, you know? Like, if you make Deadwing, you can throw me a couple of misses. But this is your miss? Really?
Yeah.
Fuck off. No, stop it.
Yeah, like it's not even like it shoots for the stars and sort of lands short. It's just ambition is so much less and it still fails. Like, I don't know, like his last record was Hand Cannot Erase, I believe. Is that right?
To the Bone, actually.
Oh yeah, To the Bone. To the Bone, which when it was advertised, I saw adverts on the tube saying Stephen Wilson, the best artist you've never heard of, which yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're making like the Hand Cannot Erase 2 albums ago, which I first heard 3 weeks ago and is already in my top 100 records of all time, I feel like you're on the pulse of what you're doing.
One would assume so.
Yeah, right.
Like, this isn't like a gradual decline or anything. Like, To the Bone is a good album, a very good album. It's a little bit bloated and it has some songs that just don't measure up to his best stuff. But his intention with that album, as said in interviews, is that he wanted to directly pursue a more accessible sound. He basically wanted to become, like, in his solo career, he has moved past his early Peter Gabriel phase and has entered his mid Peter Gabriel phase where he made shit like Us and So, which is basically To the
sort
Bone.
of more accessible sounds, which is stuff he was already exploring on the first half of Hand Cannot Erase.
Yeah, the title track, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like I listen to this, and it's like you're making references to how things are like at the best in the 80s, and I can see you're trying to make a throwback to that kind of 80s pop, but you're landing more in the world of other failed throwbacks to 80s pop, like
Waking Up was easy in the 80s.
Like The Second Law by Muse, I kept thinking of in my last re-listen.
Not a
It
bad
really
comparison.
It really does track as, like, I would say it's more like the Resistance. Was that the one before The Second Law?
I think so.
Sure, it's the one with
Black Holes.
Yeah, it's the one with Supremacy on it.
Yeah. Well, no, Supremacy is on The Second Law.
No, fucking, what is that song called?
I know the song you're thinking of.
Uprising?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
That's
that
the
album's called The Resistance. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's before Muse started to suck, which, you know, does not put Mr. Wilson on a great trajectory given the comparison I'm making. But it's also a bad album that is overstuffed but somehow almost without ideas.
Right. In the same way as The Uprising, it's not like it's without highlights. 12 Things I Forgot, again, is a wonderful song. And as much as I hate every thematic idea in Follower, it at least instrumentally has its head screwed on.
Yeah, pretty much.
But then you have the middle stretch of Eminence Lee's True Personal Shopper, which is like being shouted at by my dad.
That's what the end of Personal Shopper is. It's just like, I'm going to buy dissatisfaction. And I'm like, shut the fuck up.
My review of Personal Shopper is very simple. It's the fact that its breakdown goes sunglasses, teeth whitener, deluxe edition box sets, volcanic ash soap, anti-aging cream, self-love, multivitamin supplements, self-esteem, and it's you are.
And Saoirse, do you mind saying who speaks that part?
It's Elton John.
What?
Yeah, you didn't know?
What?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's and what it is that it's like he is trying to like sort of cut shapes on the dance floor. Like on every beat, it's kind of like strike a different shape, but that's all it is. This is a two-dimensional image on an 80s beat with absolutely no dimensionality. Bye, Morgan.
That was beautiful.
Oh my god.
That is beautiful.
You've done it. You've broken me, Steven.
I'm so upset.
At least the following track, Follower, is more instrumentally there, but it is the shallowest possible look at influencer culture you could possibly write. And I'm left looking at this record, aware it has highlights and aware it's got a lot of flaws, but just confounded at its conception. This is a record whose fault is the very conceiving of the making of it. And I'm
holy shit, yes.
And I am left like I'm driving past a car crash and I'm rubbernecking. I can't look away because I'm fascinated at how something could possibly go so wrong. And
big climb, big
fall. I was gonna make that joke and I forgot to. You cunt. But yeah, it's just I am morbidly fascinated by this complicated, strange train wreck of an album. The actual problem of which I couldn't quite put my finger on, but Jake did a great job at. And I just, what is this? I feel like I've looked inside a Dalek and seen the green mess floating around inside. And
your episodely reminder that Saoirse is in fact British.
So Stephen Wilson.
God, I can't take it, man. It's just so fucking.
Yeah. And then the ending is a wet fart. That's too long for being a wet fart. It should have been an interlude at best, and it's 6 minutes long. What do you want from me, Stephen? You want me to make insightful comments about your fucking record, make something more interesting.
That's the thing, man. I wish it was more of a failure because there's just more inherent with that. And instead you've made mid. You've posted cringe, Stephen.
Thank God, Han cannot erase this fail. Delete your
Stephen Wilson, delete your
this.
account.
Delete this. If I were you, I would delete this.
Got him good.
Makes me feral.
Stephen Wilson, please respond.
Watch this episode. And the one before, I mean, again, we made the best decision this podcast has ever made is covering those albums before this came out, because this is exactly what I worried would happen.
Yeah. And the second best decision was, not covering Hand Cannot Erase in the episode right after in the same recording session.
It's that album's tethered, honestly, in every single way.
And that it's amazing and this is shite.
Yeah. But yes, but also it's just like the whole connection, like Hand Cannot Erase, not explicitly a thing about, the modern world, but it's also speaking to a story that's so very indicative of that it's like, you have accomplished all of the things you're trying to do here already. You've done it.
What Hand Cannot Erase does really well is it tells a story with themes that relate to the real world. What this is it Stephen Wilson shouting the Daily Mail at me?
Yeah, he read fucking Orwell and was just like, wow, this really says a lot about our society, and then like just did it. He just did that.
Yeah, but it wasn't 1940, whatever the fuck, whenever Orwell was around. I don't care.
Nope.
Who cares? Fuck you.
No. I just
Stephen Wilson hurt me.
Fuck, I need another beer. Someone else review this record.
Morgan.
No, August.
What are you? August.
Okay.
I was going to say he was fixed on his cat, so I didn't know if he wanted his cat to say something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get the ambivalence towards this so far, but I kind of hate this. I find it.
I mean, you should. Fair.
Yeah, I'll get into it though, obviously. I mean, I think it starts off inoffensively enough with Unself, which it's like this haunting little intro track. It's not really meant to like, you know, be this grand statement, but it's also meant to give you a sense of atmosphere. I thought it was what the fuck?
Some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered. Some of God's greatest.
What the fuck just happened?
Gesundheit.
My cat turned on my radio somehow. I don't know how that happened.
That sounds like the name of a Weezer song. My cat turned on my radio.
That gave
I thought
me a
Stephen
heart
Wilson
attack.
like came in fucking, you stole fizzy lifting drinks.
Oh my god. That was horrifying. Okay,
It sounded like that fake country song that Bo Burnham sings.
I
Just
think
straight pandering.
Yeah.
Legalize gerrymandering.
Yeah. So then Self starts up. And this gets to my immediate heart of like my main two issues with this album. Firstly, I think this whole album just has a distinctly stiff sound to it. Like it doesn't have like the same bouncy like bounciness some of his stuff has, the same like drive a lot of his other stuff has. And I think a lot of that is down to the drums, which all sound really characteristically fake to me.
Yeah.
Doesn't work for me at all. And secondly, let's not get around this. The central concept is awful. It's just horrible. It's barely even a concept. It's technology and consumerism bad. Listen to my heavily synthesized album, which you can buy on a deluxe edition for $10,000.
Okay, Human has a more coherent narrative than this album does.
Yeah, I mean, Wilson's great at writing like sorrowful, sentimental tracks, especially ones with like a central character. And as Jake pointed out, this album just doesn't really have that. And without these like fundamental like cement, I feel this album is just ultimately directionless. It's like thrashing around for like a central sound, a central idea, and it never really settles on one. And I think that ultimately results in so many songs like King Ghost, which just sound like absolutely nothing. They sound like Air. Not Air the band. That's a good band. Air as in just the atmosphere around us, nothing. Then from out of nowhere, 4 songs in, we get 12 Things I Forgot, which, as has been pointed out, is a legitimately fantastic song. I think it would land on like a lower tier of like the songs on Deadwing, perhaps, but it's like handily the best thing here. I'm not gonna deny that.
Yeah, it sounds like they plucked it off right of Lifebolt Sun.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like.
Like and
but it's, I mean, like for context, it would be the worst song on Lightbulb Sun.
No, definitely.
Mhm.
It would be handily the worst song on Deadwing. It would handily be the worst song on Hand Cannot Erase. It would handily be the worst song on The Raven That Refused to Sing. Do you understand what I'm illustrating here? You might-
Yeah,
might hate
as a
myself
matter
now.
of fact, I do. Yeah, so I think when Wilson like brings in the proper like progressive rock elements, some of the songs can sound good. They can sound like they have a bit more of a drive to them, a bit more of that sense of direction. But for the most part, he just kind of stays in the same area for most of a song. And like it's also that I find a lot of his tracks tend to have like very deeply personal meanings, and 12 Things I Forgot has that. It's kind of like, I read it as like about putting on a mask for other people,
Yeah.
which in the context of the record becomes this embarrassing technology metaphor. But I can ignore and look past that and still say I enjoy it.
The concept is not cohesive enough to even apply that anyway. So
That's a fair point. So and yeah, that's the other thing. These tracks it's not that their runtime isn't long enough for Wilson to like properly flex his instrumental prowess and muscles. It's just he kind of chooses not to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, what do I say about Eminent Sleaze? It's got
Ew.
it's got the lyrics, "A flick of the wrist end and I seduce your sister," on just this embarrassing, unlistenable chorus, where he decides to bring in these like group female vocals, and it's like, yes, I've heard Overnight Sensation by Frank Zappa. It's that actually has a song about consumerism with that same kind of vocals, and it's an amazing track on that record. But yeah, Eminent Sleaze is just, ugh, it sounds awful. Jake, I think you already made a great point about how it's technically not poorly produced, but yeah, so I won't get too much into that. And no, the Rush reference on Man of the People did not make me like it anymore.
Shocking.
If anything, you made me want to shove a gun in my throat.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and then Personal Shopper, the worst song.
Yeah. If that does not make our top 5 worst songs of 2021, I will die. I will actually die.
that probably wouldn't have made our top 10 worst songs of last year. So, fuck.
Would have made mine.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But no, Personal Shopper it's just nearly 10 minutes of vapid pap garbage.
Tone deaf bullshit.
Yeah, it's just this limp ass attack on consumerism, but buy my 600 special editions, fuck you. Yeah, the Elton John feature, it doesn't even sound like it's properly mixed into the track. Like he just kind of comes on here. It's like sunglasses.
You
It's
know,
like,
I wish it came on that.
But yeah, this record is stupid and bad and shit, and I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's good part. There's like 1.5 good songs. Listen to those, and the B-sides. They're one of
Tangerine Dream remix of King Ghost is much better than the actual song.
because it actually goes like aggressive electronic instead of nothing. And the first song on there, what's it called? First
Shit.
song on the B-sides.
I know what it is.
Really
I know what it
good
is.
too.
Eyewitness.
Eyewitness. That song is great. I like that song a lot. It's a shame it's not on here.
And it's like just so much obviously better. Like I could probably make a solid playlist combining what I enjoy on the Future Bites and the EP and make something that doesn't make me want to die.
It
But-
would be like 4 tracks long.
Yeah, it would be like, what is the fucking point? I'm just gonna go listen to the bone instead.
Yeah, that's all I have to say, Morgan. Go ahead.
This might be the single most frustrating album I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, it's up there.
So I do want to highlight the positives first. From a purely musical standpoint, none of this is incompetent. So that's something. No, it isn't. I will say we've made a great point of talking about how good 12 Things I Forgot is, and I definitely co-sign that. But I also do want to point out just how much I have come to like Man of the People. One, not one of the only songs on here that isn't underwritten all the hell.
Yeah.
It has an interesting thematic idea, that of like it's from the point of view of Stephen has said specifically a politician, but I think it could apply to really any person in the public eye. It's from the point of view of their significant other, and I think it explores that concept really well. Pretty much just being someone who is closest to someone who a lot of people really love, but sort of as a result feeling like you go by the wayside because they're spending so much time in the public eye. And I think all that's explored really beautifully, and I think the song sounds amazing. It does take a while to sort of stick in your head, I think, because it is sandwiched between the two worst things that Steven Wilson has ever done in his career. But I think it is an excellent song, and it would have fit really nice on To the Bone. Actually, trade out one of the songs on the back half of that and pop Man of the People on, and I think it would be great. That said, the rest of the album is either actively annoying or a wimpy, wet fart. For a while, I had King Ghost in my 3 favorite tracks section, but I was like, you know what? No, I've heard this album like 8 times now, trying to latch on to something, and I still can't remember what King Ghost sounds like. So no, just 2 tracks, 2 good tracks. That's all we're doing for that segment. Self and Unself, neither are substantial enough for me to have anything to say about them other than that the video for Self is maybe worse than any of the songs on this album. Just no. Eminent Sleaze, just no, don't do this. You're smarter than this. And that's the biggest problem, I think, across this record most consistently, because it is extraordinarily inconsistent. The parts that I latch onto as being the most, the things that I can point to that describe it as a whole is the fact that 4 of the 9 tracks on here, no, 5 of the 9 tracks on here sound like nothing. There's nothing going on, nothing of interest. And I think more than any concept that is explored poorly, more than any lyrical escapade that is just, like that lacks self-awareness to the point of it being embarrassing secondhand. More than any of that, that is the most damning quality that I can say about this, is that it's a Steven Wilson album. A Steven Wilson album that sounds like nothing.
The worst Porcupine Tree album sounds like something.
Yeah.
Hell, I think you could argue that album is worse than this, but still.
I would definitely argue that On the Sunday
I agree.
Is worse than this, just if nothing else, because it's fucking longer.
Yeah.
But
this is only a merciful 42 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Let's address that briefly. Steven Wilson, under like an hour long. I mean,
Weird.
in this case, thank God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to point out the fact that, and I don't want to have to bring this up, but it's too good an opportunity to miss. My album's longer,
Jesus, it is. Holy shit.
by 3 minutes.
Four-ish minutes. Yeah.
Yeah,
something-
and
Wow.
it's a punk record, like a folk punk record. That's immediate music. This is a record by a prog legend that it's shorter, and God, does it feel longer.
Yeah, it really does. I listened to both today. Yours felt a lot shorter.
I was
felt
gonna say, I
shorter-
bet Saoirse's looking real favorable in that comparison.
It was both shorter and far more substantive. It felt shorter and was far more substantive, which I mean,
Thank
like
you.
impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's not. I have no problem with Steven Wilson album being 40 minutes and change. You know, most of the amazing Rush records are under 40 minutes long. It's
Mhm.
not a
Yeah, huh.
it's not an issue with length. It's an issue of substance.
Yeah.
And here, 42 minutes is something that we can point to as an example of the complete lack of substance on this album almost universally. But that is not really the big problem that needs pointing out, is that even on its longest song, that of 10 minutes, it says absolutely nothing that isn't either said a million times by more annoying, dumber people, or is just completely in one ear and out the other.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's just big takeaway.
Yeah.
Steven, you're smarter than this.
Do better.
Look, if the new Steven Wilson album has less to say about society than the latest Idols record, then you've run into a problem.
It's yeah, you're right. It's at least better than the
I'm
Idols
processing.
record,
I'm processing your statement, Saoirse, and I'm just like, I wanted to be like, no, but no, you're right. I hate it. I hate
Yeah, I
it
mean,
so much.
At least Idols I can point to and be like, okay, this says so much about what I hate about what people
Yeah.
are doing right now. But you know, it's a statement.
Mhm.
I want to die.
Favorite fucking
that
tracks
note.
and ratings.
Yeah.
All right, 3 favorite tracks are 12 Things I Forgot, Man of the People, King Ghost, and my least favorite track by 86,000 Miles, his personal shopper. And I give this an apprehensive 5.5.
That was better than I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I still I wish I could give it a lower score, frankly.
I mean, you can.
I can, but like my brain can't.
Right.
Yeah, on that note, 3 favorite
of
tracks.
lower scores.
Fucking I guess Unself and 12 Things I Forgot. That's all I got. Least favorite is Personal Shopper. I'll give it a 3.
Morgan.
Two favorites. Because I mean, just why say
Yeah.
King Ghost is one of my favorite tracks when I can't remember it, just to fit in 3. I don't give a shit. Man of the People, 12 Things I Forgot. Least favorite, Eminent Sleaze, 4 out of 10.
And my favorite tracks are. I'm only going to say 12 Things I Forgot. That's where I'm going to stop. I just want to also add that I did not have any raised expectations by the start of this record, because the opening of Unself, sorry, sounds so much like the opening of Limousine by Brand New that I knew I would be let down.
Oh, Lord.
And my least favorite is
Have a nice day.
and my least favorite is A Personal Shopper, because of course it is. I'm giving it a 4. Lands it on 4.1 out of 10. We don't have an album rated 4.1 out of 10, but either side at 3.8, we have Positions by Ariana Grande, and on the other side at 4.3, we have Imploding the Mirage by The Killers.
I am sorry, Brandon Flowers.
Mr. Flowers.
Jake,
Yeah,
tell us what's coming next.
Well, everybody, we are going to first film our Record Club episode for this week, which is on Gerard Way's Hesitant Alien. And then next week, we are going to be covering another big name band. We are going to be covering the new Foo Fighters Medicine at Midnight. And we are also covering Black Country New Roads for the first time. And on the recommended album slot, which is Tyler's recommended album next week, is a big one. It is Cardiac's Sing to God. So
Hang on,
week.
check. I know we're covering Black Country New Road for the first time, but what's the album called?
I said it. Oh, God fucking damn it.
You didn't get that.
I'm trying to. Oh, it's fine. Oh, Jesus Christ. Jesus
That's
Christ.
beautiful.
I'm giving Saoirse's album a 3. Everybody looking forward to what we got to do next week. But that said, rock over London.
Rock on
Chicago.
Robin Hood. We are all investors.